Hey guys, welcome back to World 16. I am your host Javon, and today we're back for a brand new video. Today we're looking at the might of the mighty RX VEGA 56. That's right, we're doing a sweet benchmark suite today with the VEGA 56. I've been meaning to do this for a long time now, and I decided, this is probably the best time to do it. The VEGA is overclocked. As you can see, we do have a power limit set to 31. It's using 1600 on the core clock and 875 on the memory clock. When I go to 900, it kind of crashes after a while when I'm playing some games I'm noticing, so I'm keeping it here. It normally runs the best here. Anyway, we're pairing it today with an i3 105, which is set to 3.7 gigahertz. It goes up to boost clock of about 4.2. We're running with 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM and dual channel memory, speed of 2667. That is the highest the motherboard supports. We're running every game off of an SSD today. Not that one, that has some of them as well, but we are using a Samsung SSD Evo 871 terabyte to help out. We will have run into a bottleneck or two with a few games because of the CPU, but for the most part, it probably will be a smooth experience. But anyway, let's get into it. We wanted to start out with something a bit more familiar to everyone, so we're doing GTA 5 first. Today we're running this at 1440p on the very high preset with MSAA times 2, and this one will run without any issues. As you can see, we're getting over 100 FPS. This is recording after the fact, so I kind of put on the cap a little late. I put up the average times and whatnot a bit later, but GTA 5 will be a smooth experience nonetheless. Next up, we have Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. We're running this one at 1080p on the medium preset with the FSR quality. This one actually runs pretty well. The beginning area of this game is quite demanding, and as you can see, we are hitting 60 FPS, but it will dip below. FSR is a big implementation I've been using for most of these games today. It definitely helps with the VEGA 56 because it has a lot to offer, but once again, CPU might be a bit limited in certain areas, but for this, it runs quite well. Ratchet and Clank is quite demanding still, and yeah, we're using about 7.4 gigabytes of VRAM. I'd say this is a great experience. Like I said, the beginning area is a lot more demanding than a lot of the other areas in the game, so you can expect a higher frame rate going forward. Next up, we have a Plague Tale Requiem. We're running this one at 1080p on the high preset. Resolution optimizer is set to the quality preset. And this is another one that is incredibly demanding. As you can see, we didn't need to put everything to the high preset, but I thought, you know what, for what it is, we'll put it here. It looks great at 1080p high, and it is running over 40 FPS on average. It'll stay there, and when we get done, as you'll see, the frame rate will increase. It's just that this is a very big open area, So it does get a bit heavy here. We're using 10 gigabytes of RAM and only 2.7 gigabytes of VRAM. It's crazy how good this looks, and it uses the least amount of VRAM and RAM. It's crazy to me about that, but as you can see, our frame rate is going up over to over 50 now. This will be a smooth experience. If you want 60, you probably will have to use the resolution optimizer a bit more heavily, set it to probably balanced, but other than that, and maybe drop some shadows, but other than that, this will be a great experience. This is a slower paced game. Horizon Forbidden West hits the stage with this one, and this one we're running at 1080p on the high preset with FSR set to quality. Once again, we are using FSR set to the quality preset, and it is running quite well on high settings, which is very surprising to me. It really shows the Vega does have a lot of life left in it. Horizon Forbidden West is actually quite well optimized, and well, it shows with this here. We are getting over 60 FPS in certain areas of the game, but in settlements and whatnot, we are dropping down into the 50s. I would recommend 1080p medium, but for the sake of the video, I decided to show you guys what high would look like. But yeah, when you get to Burning Shores, definitely 1080p medium with FSR quality is your best bet. This is just the normal game, which is a lot less demanding than the Burning Shores DLC. So yeah, let's move on. Final Fantasy VII Remake doesn't have much options for it, which is upsetting, but at 1080p high settings, the game will run at over 80 FPS on average. We're going to hit 120 in certain areas of the game. This one runs really well. This is not demanding at all. You can run this game practically on a toaster these days. As you can see, it does require a good set of VRAM, though we are using over 5.4 gigabytes of it. Now that just went up to 6 in an instant. Holy crap. But yeah, I do recommend having an 8GB card if you're doing 1080p high. If you're using a 4GB card, just drop down texture quality down to low, as well as shadows, I believe, just to save yourself, because they can get quite heavy with the VRAM. But other than that, the game performs well. No issues with this one.
Drop the weapon!
You got this.
Yeah, what he said. You're coming with us.
Can't get surrounded. Nothing to it.
Not gonna lie, Marvel Spider-Man is the bane of my existence. At 1080p on the very high preset with FSR set to quality, this one is a CPU bottleneck, definitely, simply because there's so much going on in the area. So you will get a higher frame rate, a bit of a higher frame rate in certain areas. Also, this is gonna destroy my bitrate, dude. That one's rough. As you can see, though, we are using over 7GB of VRAM. I wouldn't recommend using the very high preset. I would recommend high. Probably would have saved me a bit in this game, actually, because it looks practically the same. But obviously, even for benchmark purposes, 1080p very high was fine. It does run at over 60 FPS, but as you can see, that's 1% low due to the CPU bottleneck. Can be a bit, they're not the worst, but it could be better. As you can see, there's a lot going on screen, and like I said, I do recommend high. You could tweak this to make sure this isn't a CPU bottleneck, but for the most part, the game does run quite well. As you can see, we are hitting over 70 FPS on average. This is a great experience still. Now we move on. Here we have Forspoken running at 1080p high settings with FSR set to quality. Once again, we are only using an implementation of high quality for FSR, and we are running at the high preset once again. This is shocking. We are running over 50 FPS. This got a lot better. This is using FSR 3, by the way. We don't have frame gen because of the Vega, but this is running at FSR 3, and it is shocking that this game actually performs this well. It used to be so damn demanding that this would barely run over 30 FPS. So this is quite nice. Not even much of a CPU bottleneck really here, and it runs decently well. We will hit over 60 in certain areas. Obviously, in the open world, we may struggle a bit more, but we're using 6.8 gigabytes of VRAM, and once again, we are running at the high preset. Just keep that in mind. This is actually doing quite well. Resident Evil 4 Remake was a bit tricky in the way I implemented things for this one around, but for this one we're running at 1080p on the max preset. I then went back in and dropped the shadows down from max to high, and we're using 2 gigabyte textures, and this is where I got the sweet spot for this one. It seems to be running quite flawlessly. As you can see, we are hitting over 80 FPS on average. The VRAM is only 6.9. When I had the texture set to 3 gigabytes, the VRAM was hitting over 8. So anything above this seemed like it would have gotten a bit crazy with the VRAM. So we only have 8, guys. Come on. And as you can see, when I scope in, I definitely do lose frames. So that's an issue when we do that because of the depth of field. Regardless, the game is performing quite well here. I see no issues with this. This looks like a flawless experience once again. We're using 12.6 gigabytes of RAM, so I do recommend having more than 8 gigabytes of RAM when you're playing Resident Evil 4. But other than that, the game runs flawlessly, almost at 1080p max settings completely. Next up we have Hogwarts Legacy, running at 1080p on the high preset with FSR once again set to the quality preset. As you can see right off the bat, that RAM is ridiculous, using over 17 gigabytes of RAM. This is the first game that's using over 16 gigs. Hogwarts Legacy is still crazy demanding on the RAM aspect, but as you can see, the game is performing once again quite well at the over 60 FPS on average. The visuals look quite nice, and this is going to be a smooth experience once again. This used to stutter for me like crazy when I had previous GPUs. It has been updated and fixed a lot considering, but that RAM usage is still kind of ridiculous in 2024, guys. Like, let's be real, and it's never gonna change. You need 32 gigs to run this game smoothly. Apparently that's not true, but it is quite demanding all the same.
Not much for the cold, are you?
Oh, I do not mind the cold so much, but it has taken some getting used to. I did not grow up around snow. Oh, wait, over here.
And last but not least, we saved the best one for last, I suppose. It's The Last of Us. Today we're using this one at 1080p high settings once again with FSR quality. We are using frame generation as well as this new implementation, and boy oh boy, frame gen helps, guys. Frame gen helps. This is crazy because it actually is implemented that I can use it. It runs incredibly well on this game. I am very shocked when I saw this frame rate. I was like, holy crap, look at this running. Normally in this area I get like around 50 FPS without frame generation. So that just goes to show it literally doubled the frame rate. It's crazy. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe. And how did you like the video? Would you like me to do more of these types of videos, even on lore and hardware like the integrated graphics cards? Leave a comment down below if you would like to see something like that. And yeah, I may do one with 4 gigabytes of RAM, just testing 4 gigabytes of RAM with a few games. I will see you guys next time.